everybody, another installment of Transmission Wine today, and yet again we are talking about the delightful world of Porsche, or Porsche as most people in the UK call it. I recently did a video talking about the new 718 GTS 4-litre, and I also recently reviewed a old 981 GTS with the classic 6-pot in it. Now that's led to quite a few interesting comments. A lot of people are wondering, if Porsche will now go and put the 6-cylinder back into a Cayman or Boxster, is it possible that the 2.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo could make its way into the 911? I don't think that is an especially stupid question. History buffs will know that this has actually happened before. Way back when the 911 came out, it had a little baby brother, the 912, and that was powered by a 4-cylinder engine. So there is the precedent for it. It would be a very interesting thing too, because a 4-cylinder turbo 911 could certainly make the power. I mean, we know they can get the power out of that 4-pot that they're getting in the base Carrera. It'd be a lot lighter. You could fit it in there with room to spare, because the current 911 is also designed to have a hybrid powertrain on top of the existing 6-cylinder. Simply put though, it just isn't going to happen, and there's a few very simple reasons for that. Porsche have already taken a hit really with the 718 4-cylinder cars. People, particularly in the US and Europe, just weren't buying them. They did very well in a couple of markets, notably China, but other than that, I think they've kind of admitted that they are something of a failure. That is the sole reason for the new GTS 4-litre existing. If you don't believe me, just look at the prices of 718s. They just haven't held their values anywhere near as well as the old 981. And it really only is the new GTS 4-litre, I think, that's going to be pulling people away from those older 6-pot cars. I can completely appreciate that too. The old things are absolutely magnificent. There's always going to be a bunch of people that prefer the 4-cylinders simply because you can tune them up and make them really fast, but that really isn't a lot of Porsche's demographic, or at least not enough of it. Porsche are a somewhat predictable company, and if you drew a table of all the models, you can see where new ones might go or where there simply isn't room, and that I think is the case for a 912. A well-specified 718 is in the mid-70s, and a 911 Carrera starts at about 83 grand. There isn't the space in between those two things for another model. Maybe they could replace the Carrera with the 2.5 litre 4-pot, but I just don't think it will happen. I think it would devalue the 911 too much. As it is, the basic Carrera is 385 horsepower, whereas the new naturally aspirated GTS 4-litre 718 is 400, so those waters are already getting somewhat muddy. The more interesting question is, will we see the return of a naturally aspirated cooking 911? I think that we will, and here are my reasons. Porsche have spent a lot of money developing that 4-litre RA lump. In case you didn't know, it was actually a development of the 3-litre turbo unit that's already in the 911. That means a few things. First off, they're going to want to recoup their money for that investment, which means putting it in as many cars as they possibly can. Secondly, because it is externally probably quite similar to the existing 3-litre turbo unit, it'd fit in a 911 very happily. The 992, as mentioned earlier, has also been designed from the ground up to be a hybrid unit. There are physical spaces in that car to fit that technology. I think with the new petrol particulate filters, having a turbo and hybrid car is going to give Porsche some serious thermal issues. So getting rid of the turbos will save them some temperatures and allow them to stick the hybrid gubbins in there and let everything work. We know that they can make the numbers because with the base Carrera already being 385 horsepower and the GTS making 400, well, they wouldn't actually need to do anything to it to get the power that they want. However, adding hybrid to it would give you a justification to buy the 911 over, say, a 6-cylinder Cayman or Boxster. Even if the extra power figure is only a token 20 or 25 horsepower, with a hybrid lump in there, it could get better response, better numbers, all that jazz, and it'll help them justify people buying a 911 spending the extra. This has often been the case in the past, so it really isn't that surprising. Most people are already aware, but there are quite a few companies out there at the moment that will happily remap your base Carrera or Carrera S and give you something like an extra 200 horsepower, turning it into a turbo-baiting vehicle for about 2/3 the price. If Porsche switched to a hybrid powertrain, they would stop that dead in its tracks, because you just can't tune an NA hybrid lump anywhere near as easily as you can a turbo. And I think for Porsche, that would help restore some balance to the order, because for people willing to risk their warranty, they can have a serious performing car for a lot less money than Porsche really would like to charge you for it. Plus, Porsche have already seen in the recent past massive demand by offering people something that only a couple of generations they'd taken away. I think they've been learning from Apple on that one. For example, the 6-cylinder 718 or the manual 911 GT3. So the return of a naturally aspirated, albeit hybrid boosted unit to the Carrera, I think would do incredibly well. I'm not a big fan of the 992, but there are plenty of cases in the past where Porsche have taken a model that wasn't as great as it could have been, and they've turned it into something spectacular. See the 991. The first generation was a bit of a miss in Porsche terms, but the second was utterly fantastic, even with the switch to turbo power plants. So I think we're in exciting times right now for the 911, and I'd love to know what you guys will think is really going to happen. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.